The old farmhouse at the edge of Maple Creek was the last place anyone expected to see a convoy of black SUVs. But that's exactly what rolled up one gray morning, engines rumbling like thunder across the quiet hills. Inside the peeling white house stood Jake Miller, a single dad, a retired Army sergeant, and a man who'd seen enough chaos to last a lifetime. He was holding a mug of coffee in one hand and a toolbox in the other when he heard the gravel crunch outside. His teenage daughter, Emily, peeked through the curtain. "Dad, there are men outside. Like, a lot of them." Jake stepped onto the porch, his boots heavy on the wood. The air was crisp, the silence thick, until a tall man in a suit called out, "Mr. Miller, step aside. We need access to the creek behind your property." Jake narrowed his eyes. "That creek's on my land. You've got the wrong place." Another man, clearly the leader, smirked. "Sir, this is official business. The heiress of the Caldwell estate is staying at the lodge nearby. We're setting up additional perimeter security. It's not up for discussion." Jake crossed his arms, unmoved. "Not up for discussion? Then get off my property." The lead guard's smile vanished. "Do you know who you're talking to?" Jake didn't flinch. "A man who's trespassing." For a tense moment, no one spoke. The men exchanged glances, clearly not used to being told no. Emily stepped outside, worry in her voice. "Dad." Jake's jaw tightened. He'd fought for this land, not in courtrooms or boardrooms, but in deserts half a world away. This was his peace, his daughter's safety, his promise to his late wife. No one was taking it. The standoff was broken by a voice from behind the guards, soft but firm. "That's enough." A young woman stepped forward, her designer coat almost glowing against the dull sky. Her name was Lydia Caldwell, daughter of billionaire Richard Caldwell, the man who owned half the county. She looked nothing like the snobbish heiress Jake expected. Her eyes were kind but exhausted, and she moved with the awkward grace of someone unused to being in control. "Sir, I'm sorry for the intrusion," she said, dismissing the guards with a nod. They overstepped. Jake gave a curt nod, still cautious. "Appreciate the apology, Miss Caldwell. But your men need to learn what private property means." "I agree," she said softly. "I'll make sure of it." She hesitated, glancing at the creek beyond his field. "There's a reason I wanted access. My father's company is diverting water for construction, and the engineers think your side is part of the flow. I wanted to see for myself, before they do something permanent." Jake studied her face. There was sincerity there, something fragile and real. "You don't trust your father's company." She exhaled. "Not anymore." Something in her tone disarmed him. Jake set down his coffee and motioned for her to follow. They walked down to the creek, a narrow ribbon of silver cutting through amber grass. Birds darted overhead. Lydia crouched near the water, tracing its path with her eyes. "This land used to belong to my grandmother," she murmured. "Before my father sold everything for development." Jake raised an eyebrow. "So you're here to stop him?" She looked up at him. "To understand him. Or maybe, to undo what he's done." As they talked, a gust of wind swept through, scattering yellow leaves across the water. Emily came running with a thermos. "Coffee. It's cold out." Lydia smiled faintly. "Thank you. That's very kind." Emily shrugged. "Dad says kindness is free. Doesn't mean everyone can afford it, though." Lydia's eyes softened. For the first time in a long while, someone was treating her like a person, not a name, not a headline. Hours passed as they walked the property line, talking about life, loss, and choices. Jake told her about losing his wife, about raising Emily alone, about finding peace in the simple rhythm of fixing fences and watching sunsets. Lydia listened, really listened. When they reached the old oak at the border, she turned to him. "You could sell this land for millions. Why keep it?" Jake smiled faintly. "Because some things aren't for sale." She nodded slowly. "You're right. Maybe it's time my family remembered that." As dusk fell, the guards returned, waiting by their vehicles. Lydia handed Jake her card. "If anyone from my father's company bothers you again, call me directly. And, thank you, Sergeant Miller." "For what?" "For reminding me what integrity looks like." Jake tipped his hat, his weathered face softening. "Take care, Miss Caldwell." She turned to leave, but paused. "Lydia," she corrected with a small smile. The SUVs disappeared down the dirt road, leaving behind only tire marks and the faint scent of dust. Emily leaned on the porch railing, watching them go. You think she'll really stand up to her dad? Jake looked out at the fading horizon, the creek glinting in the twilight. I think she already did.